Chat with Sierra. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about leadership that stands the test of time. I'm excited about today's guest. Miss Patti Solenberger is here with us. Finally, we got it on the schedule. She's here to talk about what brought her to where she is today in leadership as the Director of Marketing at Solenberger's Home and Hardware, which was actually created in 1888. So it's truly stood the test of time. It's been in the family across numerous generations. And I'm excited to talk about her involvement in this business and what it looks like, because we were talking back and forth before we decided on the topic for this. And she had said, someone that she had met recently said something about your qualifications versus your calling, and following your calling and not making decisions based on qualifications. So I want to dig into that today and just talk about what's guided her along the way and the importance of her values and consistency and her faith. So I'm excited to bring her in. Thank you so much for being here, Patti.
Well, thank you, Sierra, for having me.
I am excited to hear what led up to where you are in the business today. So I know we have a lot to talk about, but before we do, there are listeners all over the world, and they might not all know Patti Solenberger yet. So can you give a little bit of background?
Sure. I am a wife to my husband, John. And I have been it'll be 43 years at the end of May.
Congrats. That's remarkable.
We have 4 children and 8 grandchildren, another one on the way. And I was pursuing academics in high school, so my path was to go to college and do the things, and I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. But then I met John, and he had graduated from high school, but we started dating, and we dated for a couple years, and we were both in community college and just said, we're going to get married. And we did. We got married, and then I worked like retail. He worked for his family's retail business. I worked retail really just to have a job. And it was until we had our first child. And then I was a stay-at-home mom. So awesome. I stayed at home with my children. I had 4 children in 8 years, and ended up at one point, my husband was like, they had taken their old 100-year-old hardware store downtown, and they purchased a 52,000 square foot building and decided to use 40,000 square foot of it for retail space, and they put their hardware store in there. And at that point, I had my 4 children. 2 of them were in school, 2 of them were, toddler, baby age. And my husband said, will you come back to work? Or will you come work with me? Because I have something I think you can do. You can do it in, probably 16 hours. It'll be a minimal commitment, but it'll get your foot in the door. And because these kids are going to end up growing up. And he said, I would love to have you partner with me. So I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I went in, and initially it was merchandising.
Okay.
So they had this old hardware store where, things had been the same for 100 years. Same fixtures, and now you have a brand new store, and you have the end caps, you have all of the different merchandising options. And he was like, I need someone just to do this. And so, you developed a schedule, and you ended up the store, you basically were changing the store every month. And so that's how I got my foot in the door. And then as our children started being in school full time, and, we worked together, and what we found was I loved it. Like, I loved being in the hardware store. Sometimes so much that my husband would be like, Patti, I've already been here so many hours. I want to go home, And we ended up just working together, and it allowed us, because he was really, that transition from downtown to this store, he was kind of a workaholic. So
Okay.
it limited the time we had together. And so we ended up, when I was working, we'd always either go to lunch or we'd have a date afterwards where we got a sitter and we would work in the evenings and then leave, go to the movies or whatever. So we kind of used it to build our relationship too.
At the same time. What a
So,
cool story.
yeah, so now I've been there 33 years and I've learned so much and done really a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I can tell you're still passionate about
I
it.
am. I really am. I think I am probably more passionate about their history than my husband is because he kind of grew up with this family.
Okay.
But as we worked together and I started learning things from the employees, I'd learned things from people in the community, and I was like, man, this is a great story that needs to be told.
Yeah.
And so at some point, my husband was like, you know what? I'm handing all the marketing over to you. And he said, and I'd be like, well, I've never done this before and I've never done this. And he'd be like, oh, I never had either, but I learned and you can do it too,
That's good for you.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yes.
Push you outside your comfort zone.
Yes. And so we ended up, I started learning about the business and then we started celebrating our years in business. So every 5 years we have a big party, and like this is 138, but at 140 we'll have a big party, and it has given me the opportunity to go places and tell our story.
Yeah.
And it's just like people within the community are amazed when they figure out, my goodness, this store has been in business 138 years and you still have Solenbergers working here.
Yeah.
And it's a unique.
It's something to be really proud of. I love the museum. That was such a cool addition when you guys did your remodel. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was like, that was something that we had all of this, just an archive of family history, and we had a gentleman come in and work for us part-time, and he was a pastor. So he was one of these guys that had to stay busy all the time. So we gave him a key, and he basically, would come in. If he got up at 3:30, he'd come in at 4 and work until we opened and then do other things. But he saw my archives and he said, Patti, what are you going to do with this? And I said, I really want a museum. We have the space. I said, but I'm having trouble getting there. And he said, I'll do it. So we basically took what we had and we made, we took each generation, and each generation is recognized and celebrated in some way.
And that can continue.
Yes. And it's really, like I said, that got me further into the history and the stories. And, it's so unique to have a founder from 1888, and we call him J&O.
Okay.
So because the name of our business, we do business as Solenberger's Home and Hardware, but our corporate identity is J&O Solenberger Company Incorporated.
Now, that used to be the signage, right? Because I swear
Oh,
I
yes.
was younger, that's
Yeah,
what it
and
was.
it was
Okay.
up until we just did this remodel.
Okay.
So we changed it because, you'd have people be like, what is J&O? What is that? And so we'd have to explain, which gave us an opportunity to tell our story. But at the same time, when you have that 3 seconds to make an impression, you don't want them wondering what J&O is. You want them identifying you as a retail store, right?
Yeah.
So we, J&O was actually from that time period, 1888, they would abbreviate names. So James was JME, John was J&O. They did that it's kind of interesting. I tell people that knowing John's family, they probably could save money on that one letter. So they left the letter out in all of their lettering. And if you go to Mount Hebron Cemetery, he's buried there, and his tombstone
It's
is
also
J&O.
J&O.
So, that was important. That's what
Yeah.
he signed his name. And it just means John. His name was John Stauffer Solenberger. But that was common then.
I don't know how I knew that it was John. J&O was John all along. I don't know if my family taught me that, but I've always known that. And I guess I never really thought about how until now. And when you said the number of years you've worked there, we had to have crossed paths when I was a little one.
Oh,
because
yeah.
my grandfather would come there on a regular basis, and I was with him every summer, summer vacation. I'd stay with him, and we come in the back door, and I thought I was so cool with him coming in there because he knew everybody.
Yes.
And I just have memories. I have very few childhood memories, but I have memories of walking in that back door at Solenberger's.
That's awesome. And hardware stores always smell a certain way.
Yes.
So all those senses are engaged when you come into a hardware store.
Yes. This segment is brought to you by Work Smarter Digital. Okay, so I want to talk about, let's go back to leadership that lasts. So what do you think, in your opinion, has allowed this business to thrive across many generations?
I think there are qualities, you might call them character qualities, that were embraced early on. So like J&O, he was very involved in the community. He was a, first in the Rotary. Like the Rotary was, I think, established in 1924, and he was a part of that. And, he took care of his employees, and he took care of the customers. And one story that we always would hear, because when John and I were younger in the business, there were employees that worked with first generation employees. And they would have been old, but they were like 18, and they're older, and one of the guys told me one time, he worked for us for 60 years, and he said, Patti, he said, I want to help you understand why I've worked here so long. And I was like, okay, And he said, J&O, during the Depression, the Great Depression, he kept every employee, and he paid them in cash. And he said, when I became an employee, like in the 1950s, he said, the first generation employees would be like, we might have been able to get a job somewhere else where we were paid a little more, but we knew that the person that owned this business cared about us, and he wasn't going to, no matter what, if there's some financial catastrophe, he was going to take care of us. And he said they would tell me that, and then I would think, wow, that's the company I work for. And so he, made an impression on me, like, that's why you have these employees that work here forever, because they know that the family cares about them.
Yeah.
And so with J&O, he started with this foundation of caring for his community, caring for his employees, and of course, intertwined in that is a family, and the family, when J&O died, it's really interesting because he had 4 daughters, he had 4 sons, but 2 of them had passed away. So the 2 that were left to run the business, he wrote his will in such a way that not only did they have to take care of their employees and themselves, but they had to pay their sisters. The 4 sisters had to somehow be paid for their stock, and so a dividend of some sort. And then their mother lived for 20 more years, and she had to be taken care of. So I remember talking to Uncle Herbert one time, and he said, do you know how difficult it was to run a business and take care of 5 people, my mother and my 4 sisters, that didn't work for the business? And he said, and then pay ourselves and pay our employees and take care of all that. And he said, it was so hard.
I can't even imagine.
And so, but they did it because their dad had impressed upon them this value of family and taking care of each other and taking care of the employees and your community. So that was the foundation. And I think every generation you see that foundation come out.
Yeah.
And it really, it's so unique.
How many of your actual family members are employed today by Solenbergers?
So we have my husband and myself, and then our daughter and our son-in-law, and then our daughter Jenna, and we have my nephew Jeremy. So those are the family members that are still involved in the business. Our sister-in-law, so my husband and his sister Cindy own it. She's retired now. So and Jamie has taken over her job, and then my son-in-law is the general manager. So then
so cool. And how many total employees today?
40, around 44 we usually average. So, and mostly full-time, part-time, some part-timers thrown in there. And so.
Well, we were talking a little bit about culture of organizations earlier, and you can tell that those things that you brought up about community and family, you can see from the outside looking in, the way that even when you're in there, that people are communicating with one another and interacting. You can tell that everybody cares about everybody else.
And it's really important. And I think my husband, the years that he was the general manager, his example was, to really care about the employees. And then in his example with our customers, show them we are here to serve them.
Yeah.
And that was something that when his generation came along, we were the big hardware store. But then Lowe's came in, Home Depot came in, and you have 2 Lowe's, 2 Home Depots, 4 Walmarts. We have tremendous competition.
Yeah.
And my husband said for his generation, the primary goal would be customer service. Because he said, if we do not treat people well and care for them and help them, they can go anywhere and buy these things. And now you have Amazon.
Yeah.
So, there has to be a reason why they want to be loyal to you and support you. And so that was his emphasis. And I think, I look back on it, at the time, it was just, this is how I'm going to run this business. Yeah. But it was a lifeline for the business. And that, even going forward is so important, because we tell our people they can buy from anyone.
Yeah. But they want to buy through who they have a relationship with. It reminds me of when Scott Harvard was here, and I was talking to him about, there are a lot of people that do mobile banking, but I will get my check and drive down to First Bank so that I can interact with folks rather than just do a mobile deposit. I know it takes me longer, but I love knowing the people that I'm banking with. It's the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I think, as people, we are social creatures, and we have a need to express ourselves, to be cared for. And we find that. We have customers, I know, that come in just to shoot the breeze. But they're there, they have a purpose in being there, but they want that interaction.
Yeah.
And it's important to us to have employees that value that. And, and that value, the other thing that I think really sets us apart is we have plumbers and electricians that have worked in the field, and they are there in a retail environment sharing their expertise. And the same with lawn and garden, sporting goods, any of those housewares, canning. We teach canning classes just because we want people to be able to do something, to have confidence in their ability to do something that they've never done before.
Yeah.
And yet it's a good holistic thing that they can do and incorporate into their life. But they don't have, they can watch a YouTube video, but they're like, I really want to make sure I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you don't know if you can trust the person in the YouTube video.
Right.
It's a good concept, but
it
learning
is.
from
And
someone
it's
who's actually
helpful.
done
You know,
it.
it can be really helpful. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's often like one of our plumbing guys, I overheard him talking to a customer one day, and he said, okay, because the guy was really struggling, and he said, this is what I want you to do. You have all the parts. He said, I'm going to give you my number. And he said, when you get home, I want you to take a picture. You send the picture to me, and I will walk you through every step. And I was like, this
huge.
is the difference, because people know. And, you know, we are doing well, you know, because we try to serve and be good to our customers, you know.
You had said doing
Doing
well
right.
by doing right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, you might have to cut a key 6 times to get it right, because the technology or whatever it's not doing what it needs to do. But you're going to do that because you want to make sure that customer leaves with a key that when they put it in their door, it's going to open their door. And, you know, those type of things are the extra mile. We instruct our employees, you do not point and say, go there. You take the customer there. And you talk to them about their projects, you know, because it's at the end of the day, it's a relationship. It's not a transaction, you know, and if you create that environment, what we've found is people want to be there.
Yeah.
And it's not just your customers, it's your employees. They want to be there too. The 2 gentlemen that worked for us for 60 years one of them told me one day he cut back to 3 days, and then he cut back to 2 because he was getting older. And he said to me, Patti, where am I going to go? Like, all my friends are here, you know, all my friends, my customers are my friends, you know. And I was like, well, that's a good point, you know. You really, it became for him, but outside of his family, that became his second family. And, you know, it was, and I learned so much from him about the business, because he was just full of information.
I'm sure lots of resources there to help you. So your journey into the business wasn't that traditional journey. I'm curious, because I always say we're talking about implementing leadership skills in everyday life, and it applies to the stay-at-home mom. The stay-at-home mom is a leader.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I want to hear about your life experiences and how they were actually preparing you for what you're doing today.
It's funny because when we had our children, my husband was like in that mode of, he worked a lot. And so I was with them a lot. And, you know, the mundane, you learn to work through the mundane, and you learn to say, you know, well, this is what we have to do. And I think with children, you learn a lot about your own failures, you know, your own inabilities, and the reason that you need to rely on other people. Because other moms or your grandmoms and all of that, you realize that there's a fellowship of people, or there's a group of people that you're going to need the encouragement from. And, you know, and also learn how to do stuff. You know, I can remember when my kids were young, and I would just be like, I would just wish there was someone that would come sit on the floor with me and fold laundry, because I did laundry so much.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And one time my husband went to Florida on business, and so he was gone, and we had a blizzard. Oh, no. And I had my 4 children. One of them I wouldn't let go outside because she was so small, and I was afraid she'd get lost in the snow. But the other ones, they would go outside and come in, and go outside and come in. Well, as a mom, you're like, those clothes, you're taking those clothes, and you're trying to you're either washing them, or you're putting them in the dryer to get them dry. And I can remember just sitting on the floor in our laundry room, and I was crying because I was just so tired. Like, I'm doing this, and you know, I'm a believer in Christ, and he just impressed upon my heart, you be faithful in little things and you will be faithful in big things.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's
that
powerful.
encouraged me so much because I thought, you know what? I can do this.
Yeah.
And so in those type of things follow you. And when I got involved in the business, not everything there is easy and not everything is fun. But you realize, like, if we put ourselves into this, and we will have a reward of some type at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
And we just, from the very beginning, it's kind of funny because I can remember going back into the workforce and being so scared because I hadn't done this. I'd been home with
Yeah.
my kids. And so I went back, and I can remember one time I was like approached by a customer, and I saw my husband and I said, "Oh, let me take you over here. He can help you." And I did that, and my husband helped them. And then he came to me and he said, "Patti, you are no different than anybody else that works here." He said, "You have to help the customers, and you have to get over your fear and it was my fear was I don't know everything. Like, this is a hardware store. I don't know this stuff,
Yeah.
But he was like, "No, this is how you're going to learn. This is how you learn. You immerse yourself and you help the customer, and what you don't know you learn from your other employees."
Yeah.
And he said, "So the next time this happens, I want you to help the customer, and if you need help, get help, but don't just pass them off to me." And I was like, okay.
Oh, I'm sure that was so hard. But as you were saying that, I was thinking about, as a mom, you didn't have a user manual, right? You were doing your best with what you had in front of you and hoping that you were doing it right. And the same kind of thing, like going into it blind, knowing I'm not going to know it all.
Right.
I've got to kind of make this up as I go.
And when you're on the sales floor, and my job was on the sales floor because I'm redoing all these end caps and I'm doing the merchandising, but that doesn't exclude you from helping customers.
Yeah.
And so, I had to figure that out. And over time, it just became so natural. And your confidence builds. And
Yeah.
you're like, it's not that you know everything, because I surely didn't. But I did know that I could trust my coworkers to help me with the information I didn't know. Today, I can have my computer right in my pocket.
Yeah.
And if a customer asks me a question and I don't know, I can have information in 3 seconds
Yeah.
and say, "You know what? I think this would probably be the better option." And it's still good information and it's accessed very quickly.
Yeah.
But there has to be a way to communicate. And so that's been really helpful.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I can picture you now. Now you're hunting them down to help them. I want to help you.
Yes,
Whereas
that's
before
exactly
you're
right.
like,
I
"Don't
was
come
scared
me.
to death. I was
Don't
like,
come down my aisle."
and it's just a funny, because your questions made me think of the past, and it just like bringing it up, I was like, oh my goodness,
What a
I remember this.
transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something you said, and I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, is the fact that you've been following your calling, not making the decisions based on your
Right.
qualifications.
Yeah.
So how has that shaped the way that you're leading?
I think the interesting part, like looking back, I would never have thought when I was 20 years old that this would have been the path of my life, right? So it was like I look back and I think, wow, I thought I was going to do this, or that I would do this, or but the opportunities that I've had in business, it's like this was what God called me to do. And
You can tell.
and it became like every time you're faced with something new, or I'm given a job that I've never done before, and you have that fear, you have that lack of confidence, it's like step through the door.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it. And as you do these things, your confidence builds.
Yeah.
And you may be, you may make mistakes. You might, end up being like, well, I could have done that better.
Mm-hmm.
But you can build on that.
Yeah.
And so that's what my calling has become, really, just the whole marketing and storytelling, but also building into the community, like trying to take what we have and being involved in things and being a community encourager. Because the bigger our community gets, it has to get smaller too. And we have to understand, our business has been involved in supporting many nonprofits, from fire and rescue to the Winchester Rescue Mission. It's been a very important part of our need to give back.
Yeah.
And so with that, we engage and we figure out, what, our community has a weak spot here. And you're only as strong, like if you think of a fence that has a weak spot, that's always a vulnerability, right? And so you're only as strong as your weakest spots. And so for us, it's given us the opportunity to look. And, at one point we would do fundraisers like on a national scale, like when you go to the grocery store and you say, we're going to round up for, some big. And we did that especially for the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, because one of our daughters has type 1 diabetes. And we were kind of like, but at some point I was talking to a fundraiser for them and I realized, what, I don't even know this person. And this money's going out of our area.
Yeah.
So at that point, we made a decision, any fundraising that we do or any donations that we do will remain here.
Yeah.
And, and they'll involve people, because we hope to, in some way, even it's a really small way, address those weak links and try to make things stronger in our community, because we're not going anywhere, right?
No, you're not. You are not.
So our hope is like to make things better and to do well by doing right.
Yeah.
And that as well.
A lot of sponsorships are transactional. Logo placement, quick visibility, and then it's over. That's not what this is. TSLS is part of a year-round leadership ecosystem, which means your brand doesn't just show up for a day. It stays connected to the audience long after the event. If you're thinking strategically about visibility, let's talk. Visit theTSLS.com to learn more. That's theTSLS.com. Have you ever ended a day feeling busy, but not actually accomplished? That's exactly why we created Rooted Focus. It's a simple, structured space where you commit to what matters most, get distraction-free time to work, and then actually follow through. No overthinking, no multitasking, just focused execution. If you've been putting something off, or you just need space to get it done, Rooted Focus might be exactly what you need. You can learn more at SierraLearnership.com. That's SierraLearnership.com. Do you want to accelerate your revenue? Call Work Smarter Digital. Work Smarter Digital helps service-based businesses tighten up their sales process, improve follow-up, and put better systems behind their growth. Because when your sales process is messy, revenue gets messy too. Visit WorkSmarterDigital.com to learn more and book a demo. That's WorkSmarterDigital.com. Well, it's great to see how involved you are in the community, and you're so good at marketing. I could learn a lot from you, but the things that I see that you're putting out there and the way that you go about it, you are a storyteller. I would describe it that way, and that's something I've never been confident in. So I really admire you for that.
Well, it's funny because you realize, like, everyone loves a good story.
Oh, yeah.
And then to take the storytelling, like, even a step further, we kind of incorporated early on, like, the Selfie Saturday thing. And then I realized people love to see themselves. Or even if they're not seeing themselves, they love to see their friends.
Yeah.
They love to see people they know. And, so we have fun with that.
Yeah.
And, so every Friday, today, at some point, there'll be some selfies out there from this week where people have been in the store and, we're like, come in, be a part of this.
Yeah. Well, it's cool to kind of, you lose touch with your friends throughout the week sometimes, and it's like, oh, they went to Solenberger's this week. Oh,
Yeah.
Jay was there?
And why were they there?
Yeah, exactly. What were you doing? What project are you working on?
Right. So that's fun.
Okay, so I'm curious about something because I've met a lot of family-owned businesses, and I imagine that it's challenging to work alongside family, and I'm curious what it has looked like for you and what you've learned about leadership while working alongside your spouse, your own children, and family in general. Has it ever been challenging for you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
It has been. I think the funny part, like my husband really has been a mentor to me, but he will challenge me,
Yeah.
and that can be hard. For years I would just pop into his office and whatever was on my mind just went, and he'd just look up from his desk, his computer, and look at me, and, he was patient with me for years doing that. And one day I did that, and he said, Patti, I cannot do this. I cannot be doing my job and have you come in and totally disrupt me because I have trouble getting back to where I am, And he said, from now on, I really want you, I love when you come in, but I would like for you to ask me, is this a good time? That's just common courtesy, right?
Yeah.
Well, for years, I was totally inconsiderate with my husband. And he was so kind, to receive me. And I remember the day he said that to me, because it was me. I come up with these ideas, and I just think they're fantastic, and I have to share them with somebody, And so I remember walking out of his office mad, because I was like, But then I thought about it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so inconsiderate. That's the truth. And he's put up with this for 8 years, me doing this, but here he is. And so those type of things, I think, I look back on and I think that has improved me as a person. Like, I'm not perfect at it still, because I'm sure, like, the other day I walked in on Rich, and I said, Rich, and John said, Patti, he's doing something. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask, So I haven't become perfect at it, but it's like...
You're more intentional.
Yes. Those type of things have helped me so much.
Yeah.
And they make me more conscientious and more a better employee, because at the end of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was right.
Yeah.
But working with family, like I said, my husband sometimes, I think he's tired and he just wants to go home, and I'm like, okay, I've had to learn, like, you need to temper it, you need to settle and go home. And then when you get home, you do not talk about work. And we did that for years until we just one day said, we can't keep doing this, because our work follows us from work to home, to talking about it when we wake up, talking about it at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And John just was like, you know what, we need to discipline ourselves, both of us.
Yeah.
Where we just don't do this. And really as probably in the last 10 years, that's become easier for us. And, so I think those are the type of things that are difficult. There's also inner family, dynamics and, well, why does she get that job and I got this job? Those kind of things. Because you have to just be like steady and say, well, this is what we see as being the best thing for the business. And, those type of things. I think we did things like when our children were small, they went to work. When the store was closed, we were at work a lot of times. They were at work with us.
Okay.
And so they were raised in this culture, and all of them could step into the business today and work because they know.
Yeah.
But they've all they have different callings on their life as well. So,
Yeah.
and we respect that. We've never made any of them work for us. It's always been like, this is an option, but we want you to explore your options.
Yeah.
And should you feel led to do this, we have a place for you.
Oh, that's amazing that you've approached it that way. I know that's not the case in a lot of families, and there's so much pressure put on someone to, come to the family business. We've been in business for so long, we can't stop now, and it's like it's forced upon them. So
well, our son is the oldest, and, people are like, well, why is your son doing this? Well, he really looked at what we did. He worked with us, and he was just like, I just don't get it. And that was his response.
Okay.
Like, I love this and I see its value, and I don't want my sister's generation to be the one that it ends on. But he's like, it's not for me. And, we respected that. Because the last thing you want is to force someone into a business they don't want to be in. They're not going to be successful.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's obvious, and it would just impact the entire culture. So,
But in doing the history thing for the family and really diving into the personalities, you see how the wives helped their husbands in business. And even if they didn't work there was a level of support that transcended the atmosphere, the work they were doing. They were involved in some way supporting the owner in a way that allowed them to do what they did.
Yeah.
So that's been fun too.
That's been an important piece of it, I'm sure. Well, hearing you say separating work and home, that was interesting to me because we have this conversation all the time. We were told that we needed to stop talking about work, and so we went out to dinner one night to have a date, and I'd open my mouth to say something and I'd go, can't say that. And we did that over and over again the whole meal, and I'm like, we have a real problem
It's
because
a discipline,
it does
isn't it?
consume you.
It
Every
does.
thought, I feel like he's going to say something. Okay, I have a problem. And it's what you're saying too. It's like we talk all the time about those that are closest to you, like are most honest with you about room for improvement. So we can be pretty hard on each other and call each other out on things. And it's hard to hear in the beginning, like you're saying.
It's like I have gotten mad a lot of times, but when I walk away and I really think about it, I'm like, oh. Yeah. And really with my husband, he has been so gracious with me. Like he just has put up with a lot for a long time, and then he's like, I think it's time to address this, But
you put up with a lot too. Come on, Patti.
Probably I do. No, he's really. I think if anybody, when I look at him, because I really thought about this with your questions too. A person has a calling on their life. For me, I've seen that in him, and I've seen it in the way he treats people. He is a kind and compassionate person, and he treats our employees that way and our customers that way. I used to be, before we just did our remodel, that I could stand in our offices and look. We had a glass window. We still have it. I can look down the hallway, but I used to be able to see all the way to the middle of the store from that. And I'd see people come in, and I'd see like the little ladies and him patting their hand, and I just would think, this is who he is.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder to me that he's been successful, because it's like that is the family traits that have made this family do well in the hardware business, because it's a people business, and that has conveyed all the time with him. And it just makes me like so happy to see that, like, oh my goodness, that's so great.
But you're right. You can tell when someone's doing what they're meant to be doing in life. It's obvious. You can see the shift in them.
He really has a level of knowledge. He's kind of stepped back in some ways. He still works. We both work 4 days a week. So 2 days we keep our grandchildren, because that was a commitment we made, because we felt like, we're requiring our daughters to work. But we feel like they need to know that their children are in a safe place.
Yeah.
And so we made that commitment. And initially when my first Jamie had our first grandchild, I said to my husband, this is what I'm going to do. And he was like, are you sure you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, I just feel it's the right thing to do. And he said, well, I will support you in that, but I'm still going to work. And so I would be keeping him, and I would notice that John was going in at lunchtime, 1 o'clock. I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, well, I don't want to miss out on this, So as we've gotten more grandchildren, he actually stays with me, and he's with our grandkids today. But we both enjoy that so much, and it's so holistic. Like it's the feelings that it evokes with you, with your, they're going to become teenagers, and we're going to be like, in the background.
Yeah,
but
enjoy it while you can.
At this point, we know, like, they're like, oh my goodness, you're the best thing ever, and we're able to impart ourselves in a really special way with them.
That's beautiful that you have the space to do that. Curious about how your faith has impacted the way that you lead as well as live your life.
I think it's impacted really every aspect of my being. So I really find that a lot of my confidence comes from knowing that God has this for me to do. And so it's like, well, Lord, as practical, down to the other day, we had been gone for a month. We took a trip to Panama for a month. And so we came back, and when we came back, some of the things were, they did a phenomenal job of running the store, but we got a bunch of freight in, and it was like, my job is visual. Like, I'm looking around and this is not right, So I didn't know how to make it right. And so I really prayed about that. I was like, Lord, I need some ideas, because since our renovation, the store layout is different, and I have to work in a different environment than what I worked in for 30 years. So it's like totally readjusting. And so I prayed, and that next morning I get up and I've got the whole vision. And I'm like, I feel like God just laid that out for me. And so those are the type of things, I think, the way we treat people. On the side of our building, we have a mural of all the generations. And what kind of ties that mural together is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's a high calling, and we don't do that perfectly, but that is our goal.
Yeah.
And that's how our faith really impacts us. And I think even like looking, like I said, at our founder, J&O, from the beginning, like he was actively involved in the community. We found receipts where one of the churches in town, he had purchased all of the building materials for that church. And, I don't know if they paid him back. I don't know any of the financial aspects, but he used his ability to purchase things at cost and bless this building that's still standing in town, that was important to him. And that's, we tried, again, you're looking around and you're seeing what in your community needs your help, and you're investing yourself in that. And that's just important to us. So
I'm curious what you would say to someone who doesn't feel like they know what their calling is. Because I've come across many people who they know they're not happy in what they're doing, but they aren't sure what their calling is.
I would pray and say, God, show me what my calling is. But along with that, I think you've just got to keep taking the next step. And sometimes you're going to think, for years, I led like little women's Bible studies. And I was asked to teach like a big women's Bible study, like 150 women. And I got my lesson prepared and got up in front of these women. And I was like a shivering, quivering mess. For 45 minutes, I gave the lesson, but it came out of lips that were just like, and I was shaking because I was so nervous. And I did that, and I left, and God knows why, who or why, but they asked me to come back and teach again. And I said, oh, that God, I can teach, I can do this with your help, but I don't want to subject people to that pain of me being like a nervous Nelly mess. And so with each time that I taught, I became better to the point now that once we started, I've had opportunities to speak locally for, civic clubs and for marketing at the different chamber opportunities and serve on boards and do things. And I can speak now and it's like so natural.
Yeah.
It just,
You would have never known.
but I had to step through those doors to get to the place where I am now, where actually when I speak, I'm looking at people and I'm thinking, God, help me to say something that's going to impact them today, that's going to encourage them and help them to take the next step and not be so concerned with myself, because that's where that fear comes in.
It is.
And, but it took me doing it and just stepping ahead and just saying, I've made this commitment. I've got to follow through. And I think that if we allow fear to win, we will stop. We won't do anything.
Yeah.
But if you don't allow it to win and you just say, okay, I'm going to just do it.
Yeah.
And no matter what the results are, I'm going to learn something from this. And that has been kind of the ebb and flow. And I have seen so many awesome things come from it, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here today.
Exactly.
If I hadn't stepped ahead. So
it's, as you were describing that, I was thinking about when I first started coaching. I remember I had just gotten my certification and I was going to sit down and have my first coaching conversation. And I always, before I have a coaching call, pray that he will give me the right words, give me what they need, because I have no idea what I'm going to say or what's going to come up, because I'm a person who I like to be very detail-oriented, process-driven, and have a plan for everything. Well, I don't know what's going to come out of their mouth, so I don't have a plan for it.
Right.
So I still today, will pray first, but that was always my comfort in knowing, okay, I've prayed and he's going to help me get through this and give them what they need.
It is a comfort.
It is.
And it's a feeling of, again, if God has called me to this, he will enable me.
Yeah.
And that has been my experience.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever listened to Mel Robbins' podcast before.
I haven't.
Okay, well, she's really good. And I was listening to it this morning, and she had a scientist who studied, quote unquote, luck on there this morning.
Interesting.
And I was like, I have to hear what they're saying about luck. And basically what they arrived at was, it's not about luck. It's about those people are stepping into those challenges. They're taking the action when something comes up instead of pausing, letting fear take over. They're doing the thing, and then they're getting opportunities that they would have never had if they hadn't done that.
Right.
So that person's not lucky. That person took a chance and they pushed themselves outside their comfort zone. And so I'm seeing that align with what we're saying today.
Right.
Both of us wouldn't be in the situations we're in today having not done that.
And I think there's a element of work ethic in that too, because you have to be willing to put in the work.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to just have a result just because you made the step. There has to be an investment.
Yeah.
And, I look around because I think, well, sometimes I'm like, I'm doing this, or I'm doing this, or I'm seeing someone else do something, and I think, why aren't more people doing this?
Yeah.
And because things could be so much better if we all were doing things, and helping. And then I think, I don't know why I even do this, but I do,
Yeah.
And so, but I think that as a part of a community, we need community builders, those people that are saying, hey, I'm going to be involved. I'm going to sacrifice my time.
Yeah.
and help others, and
Model it for other people, and hopefully they'll join, right?
Yes, yes.
But yeah,
Exactly.
it is a lot of hard work. So thinking about what we've talked about today, I always want to bring it back to any listener, because we have people who are business owners, we have stay-at-home moms that are listeners, and I want everybody to be able to apply something from today. So if you were to think about the one action that a listener could take based on what they heard today, no matter where they are in life, what would you encourage them or challenge them to do?
I believe I would challenge them to take a step and do what they're afraid to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if you're afraid and it really is your calling in life, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's says to me, you know what? You don't have it all together and you don't have it all figured out, but you have a desire, and walk ahead in that desire and step into it, and then you'll overcome the fear.
Yeah.
Because your confidence then starts to build, and you start to realize that there are parts of you that you never realized, oh my gosh, I can do this. And I never even would have thought I could do this 20 years ago or whatever, but I can. But it's going to take making the fear be quiet. And just, that's how you do it, is you just go ahead and do whatever that is. And I think we're all in those places, because no one is 100% confident.
No.
But your confidence will grow as you decide to just forget the fear.
Yeah.
And move forward.
And just do it.
Right.
Well, I can't help but tell you, Mel Robbins, again, you have to listen to her or read some of her books. She has a 5-second rule, and she basically says if you give yourself time to give yourself a reason not to, you're going to talk yourself out of it. But she counts down from 5, and when she gets to 0, she launches into whatever the thing is. She doesn't give herself the time to psych herself out, and that forces her to do the hard thing. And she actually put it into practice the first time getting out of bed in the morning. She was having trouble getting up. She didn't want to face the day. So when she got to 0, she was up, and she's like,
awesome.
well, now I have the momentum.
Right.
That's what people need, right? Get
Oh,
over that hump, and then you have the momentum. So,
and it's never wrong to ask for encouragement. Like if you don't have an encourager or someone, I just feel like look for those people that are going to speak life into you.
Yeah.
And not fear, and not, they're not going to distract you from your purpose.
Yeah.
They're going to encourage you in your purpose, because, none of us get where we are on our own. Right?
Yeah.
You end up with, there are all sorts of people pushing us along the way. With children, one of the things that I thought about is they're watching you.
Yeah.
And you're teaching them. So are you going to teach your child to give in to fear and just not experience life?
Yeah, you don't want to teach them that.
You don't want to. So, they're going to watch you and be like, oh, wow. That's like with my Bible study. My son, the day that he was home, the day that I went to teach, and he said, so what are you doing today? And I said, I'm going to teach a Bible study. And he said, oh, how many? Like 4, 6 ladies? Because he'd seen me do that. And I said, no, I think there's going to be about 150 women there. And he said, Mom, you're really rising up in the world,
Aww,
and
so
I was just
sweet.
like, that's the funniest. I laughed all the way to the thing, because I thought that's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, but he thought that was like, wow, that's impressive, know.
Well, you had the ability to influence a lot of people that day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You just think about it. It's just kind of one of those things that, again, I could have said no, but I felt called to say yes, and stepping forward. And it wasn't always easy, but over time, you realize that the things you're afraid of are just the big bad wolf.
Yeah.
And they really kind of just go away,
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share today? This has been so very helpful, but I want to give you an opportunity if we've missed anything that you really wanted to put out there.
Really, I think the thing that I would share with everyone, because it's important no matter what community you live in, is to support your local community, shop local, get involved with your local, whether it's a bakery, a shoe store, anywhere where you have local businesses, try to support them in the best ways that you can, because they're not going to be around if we don't. And everything, it's tough. It is tough. You're constantly changing and reinventing yourself. But the reality is, if you don't have the support of your community, you're not going to continue to be in business. And it's really important to me. I try to shop local and to support local. And I shop other places too. But I try to, when I'm thinking about something, I'll think, well, I'll look in my chamber book. Is there, my chamber directory, I'll say, is there a business owner that's doing this locally?
Yeah, it's a good way to do it.
How can I support them? Because I know I'm on the other end of that. And I know if we don't have our support, our communities are just going to kind of collapse because local businesses do so much in communities.
Yeah, when we've been traveling, we've driven through small communities and there's nothing left. And it's terrifying in some of the places. We're like, this looks like it was beautiful. What happened to all these businesses? And I think that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So how can people find you and support Solenbergers?
Well, Solenbergers, we have a website. So it's solenbergershardware.com. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, all the socials. So you can check out our Facebook, Solenberger's Home and Hardware, and follow us. That's a very simple way to support a business, but it helps. Just come check us out. If you're ever in the area or if you live here, come see us, because we love to meet new people and allow them to have the Solenberger experience.
Well, we'll definitely put the links in the show notes too, so people can access from there. Your leads aren't ghosting you, you're ghosting them. Work Smarter Digital gives small businesses a fully built, ready-to-run CRM sales system, so you can stop wasting months setting up software and start following up tomorrow. Don't leave your revenue hanging. Start working smarter today. Visit WorkSmarterDigital.com to learn more and book a demo. That's WorkSmarterDigital.com. At some point, growth requires more than listening to a podcast. It requires structure, accountability, and someone who can challenge how you're thinking. That's where coaching comes in. Our one-on-one coaching is designed as a long-term partnership focused on clarity, communication, and consistent execution over time. This isn't about quick fixes, it's intentional growth. If you're ready to go deeper, you can start by filling out the individual leadership interest form linked in the show notes. You can also learn more at SierraLearnership.com. That's SierraLearnership.com. This year's lineup brings real-world experience from business, media, government, and leadership at the highest levels, including a former FBI Chief of Staff, high-performing sales leaders, communication experts, and business strategists. This isn't theory, it's real leadership. Join us October 14th and secure your seat at thetSLS.com. That's thetSLS.com. I thank you so much for coming and sharing this today. It's just so great to finally sit down and talk to you, and you had so many great insights to share, but I can tell why this has lasted for generations and will continue to. It's evident to me the values that continue to show up and what you're doing, what your family's doing, and all of the team members that make it possible. So thanks for all you do in the community.
Thank you for the invite, because, it's really it's so special to be able to share our story. So we appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you for sticking through to the end of the episode. If you found value, please share it with somebody else. Share it with somebody who needs to hear that message today, who needs to take that step and just do it. Even if it's a little bit scary, face that fear. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you could always fill out an application at branchingoutpodcast.com. If you want to be a subscriber so you get those notifications when our episodes come out, they come out every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to follow us and subscribe so you get those notifications. And until next time, keep branching out. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend your time here. I don't take that lightly, and I'm really grateful you're a part of this community. If something from today's conversation resonated with you, I want to encourage you to do two things. First, take one small step. Not everything, just one. Growth doesn't come from hearing more, it comes from applying what you already know. And second, share this episode with someone who could benefit from it. These conversations are meant to spark growth, and you never know who might need to hear exactly what you just did. If you haven't already, be sure to follow or subscribe to Branching Out with Sierra so you don't miss future episodes. And if you believe in this mission, helping people apply leadership skills to everyday life, and you're interested in supporting the podcast through sponsorship or collaboration, I'd love to connect. You can find more information in the show notes or reach out directly. And quick note before we close, this podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes. While we share insights and experiences to support your growth, it's always important to apply what fits your situation and seek professional guidance when needed. And finally, I want you to hear this. No matter where you are in your journey, whether you're leading a team, growing a business, navigating change, or just trying to show up better each day, you are exactly where you need to be to take your next step, and you have the ability to positively influence others in every interaction you have. I'm rooting for you, I believe in your growth, and I'm here to support you along the way. Thanks for being here.